I'm Kathy Sanfilippo. I'm a licensed clinical trauma therapist. And today we have kind of a heavy topic. September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. I know that's not an easy topic, but that's exactly why we need to talk about it. Suicide is now one of the leading causes of death in our country. Thousands of families are touched by it every year. We know military veterans are high risk. They average 24 suicides a day, and if you add in what's known as self-injury mortality, that includes things like drug overdose, extreme alcohol abuse, high-risk behaviors. That brings that number up to like 50 deaths a day that could be prevented. Youth suicide gives us another really scary statistic. Kids aged 10 to 14, suicide is the leading cause of death. I know suicide isn't about the statistics, it's about people. I just want you to get the picture. More importantly, it's about friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, people who could be struggling silently. I know behind the statistics, every statistic, there's a story. There's a person God created in his own image, a person with value and purpose and worth. So today, I just want to share some warning signs to look for, the science behind suicidal thoughts, protective factors that keep people alive, and just really the hope that reminds us, even in our darkest moments, God has not abandoned us. Think of a person at risk for suicide like someone who's drowning. Sometimes it's really obvious. They're thrashing around, they're gasping for air. Other times they just slip quietly underneath the surface. What saves them isn't a lecture on swimming technique. It's a hand reaching into the water. Suicide prevention is that hand. Sometimes it looks as simple as just checking in, listening, reminding someone they're not alone. Here's something most people don't realize. Suicidal thoughts aren't just hopelessness or sadness. They aren't about weakness or lack of faith. They're often tied to what's happening in the brain and the body. Even in scripture, we see people wrestling with despair. Elijah the prophet, he became so overwhelmed and so exhausted, he went and he sat down under a tree and he prayed to God that he could die. He wanted God to just take his life. In the story of Job, he cursed the day he was born. He wished he'd never been born. In the Psalms, David pours out like absolute anguish and despair and hopelessness. And what's cool is God met them right where they were at with compassion, no lectures on faith, no reprimands. I love Elijah's story. God gave him time to rest. He had his angels bring him fresh baked bread. They got him something to drink. I just love that. God showed him a new purpose after he'd rested, and he gave him a new community. Anyway, back to science too, because I love that part as well. I want us to better understand that part of the struggle too. So if we think about what happens to the brain under extreme stress. So Elijah had just won a huge showdown against the prophets of Baal. This was a huge success, a miracle, and he forgot it the moment Queen Jezebel threatened she was going to kill him. So he ran all alone into the wilderness to hide. So now Elijah is isolated, scared, overwhelmed, and he forgot all the amazing things in his life. I can see how many of us might relate to that, right? I think everything is so great and God is so good, and then something happens that's hard and I forget. It's like it never happened. What's going on in my brain at that point is my amygdala, my alarm system, goes into overdrive and it's just thinking danger, danger, danger. My prefrontal cortex, that's the rational problem-solving part, shuts down, so I can't just think my way out of my problems. My nervous system can collapse and go in freeze mode, so now I've got that like numbness sometimes or detached feelings. Those are all brain states. They're not identity. Like, we're more than just our despair. We just can't see it at the moment. All Elijah saw was, I'm alone and life is horrible and someone wants to kill me and I just wish I was dead. And these states, they're not permanent. They're just brain patterns, and your brain can be rewired. That's why support and therapy and connection, it saves lives. It resets our system. Okay, so knowing warning signs is important too, right? Common ones that we all are probably familiar with, things like withdrawing from friends and activities, talking about feeling hopeless or wishing you could die or you were dead, not wanting to wake up, big mood swings, giving away meaningful things. But there's also really subtle signs that a lot of the times get missed. So maybe a calm after a long depression, changes in sleep pattern like too much or too little, risky or reckless behavior, sometimes even pain, unexplained pain. I don't want you to get too hung up on that one, but if you throw it in with the others, it's worth noting. Emotional numbness, detachment, sometimes indirect references to death in art or writing or online posts, or even just disappearing digitally, right? Deleting accounts, just being silent online. The big thing is change. If someone's acting different than usual, then it's worth checking in and saying, hey, I just noticed whatever, are you okay? Most of the time, awareness campaigns only talk about risk factors, but I want to look at protective factors too, the things that keep people alive. Strong relationships, community, a sense of purpose or responsibility, pets, creative outlets, faith, values, housing and healthcare, learning skills to cope with stress. Suicide prevention isn't just about removing the danger, it's also about building reasons to stay. Sometimes being someone's connection, someone's encouragement, just a safe space is a huge protective factor that can make all the difference. Here's what really helps. Ask directly if you're worried and say it. It shows you're safe to talk to. Listen without judgment. You don't have to have perfect words, just be there. Encourage somebody, show support, help them get professional help, or call on a hotline or a crisis service. Just stay connected, text, call, visit. When you're consistent, it says, hey, you matter. And if you're the one that's struggling, please know you're not a burden, you're not alone, what you're feeling is real, but it can change, it's temporary, and you don't have to face it alone. Please remember, if you or someone you love is struggling with thoughts of suicide, you can call or text 988. That's the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's available 24/7. If you're outside the US, you can easily find local hotlines in your area. Here's a challenge for all of us. Just reach out to a couple people this week that you haven't talked to in a while or checked in on. Just a simple message saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. It might feel small, but it could be that's the hand that keeps somebody above water. At the heart of Suicide Prevention Month is this: your life matters. Your story's not over. That's why the semicolon has become such a powerful symbol. In writing, it means the sentence could have ended, but it didn't. In the same way, you might feel like your story is over, or you wish it was, but God hasn't finished your story yet. You can be sure of that, or he would have taken you home himself. In the meantime, remember what it says in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Hey, thanks for watching. Please take a moment and like, subscribe, share our channel with someone who might need a word of encouragement. God bless.